This video is proudly sponsored by Gamersgate. Download games anytime, anywhere. Visit Gamersgate.com.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Elder Geeks Game Club. This is episode number 32, Double Dragon Neon. My name is Steve and with me perpetually is Phil.
Hi.
With me consistently is Phil. Phil, how are you doing this evening?
I'm very good. How are you?
Once again, I'm doing all right. Randy is with us as well. Randy, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I always giggle before my introduction.
That's okay.
I give away my presence. I would be a terrible sniper.
You'd just be up there laughing to yourself as you see the guys coming around the corners.
Yeah.
I like that you associate like sniping people with giggling.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to get you, little motherfucker. And you just pick them off.
And once again, welcome back. This is the Game Club. For those of you who are uninitiated with our process here, what we do is we pick a game and the three of us play it over a couple of weeks, and then we get together and record this book club style podcast where we discuss the game in depth. That includes spoilers. For anybody who's listening and doesn't want to have things spoiled, I would recommend listening to something else. Those of you who don't mind spoilers, thanks for sticking with us. Yeah, it's really just kind of a book club style discussion. We talk about things we like, things we didn't like. Not a formal review, but it is what it is. And as I mentioned at the top, this time around we were playing Double Dragon Neon. And
we're going to spoil the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, there are hurricane kicks
you guys,
in this one.
Yeah, buckle up.
There are upside-down helicopters.
So, Phil, why don't you go ahead and give us a little background on Double Dragon Neon?
Sure. So, usually when I dive into history, I like to go into the history of the game and the developer. And Double Dragon has such a huge history. I really tried to sum it up the best I could. I mean, you could probably talk about this goddamn history all day.
So, Double Dragon, there was a series called Double Dragon.
There actually was a series, believe it or not, called Double Dragon. And this game was developed by WayForward for Majesco. They published it. Mm-hmm. It was released on Xbox Live and PSN on September 12th. So Double Dragon, this game that apparently existed before many moons ago. It was originally developed by Technos. They released it in '87. And this is actually kind of an interesting fact, I think. It's a semi-spin-off. It's more of like a refinement of an earlier game they made called Renegade, which was also an arcade game and a NES game. Mm-hmm. And Renegade, in Japan, it's the first of the Kunio-kun, I'm probably saying that wrong, series, which became River City Ransom. So River City Ransom and Double Dragon are kind of like brothers. So Double Dragon was a hit. Thing got ported to every freaking platform. I actually remember playing some kind of computer version when I was a kid, which was based on the NES port, if I remember correctly. It was
wow.
Yeah, and it was a piece of shit. But I really wish I got a hold of my cousin to find out what one that was. But yeah, I played that before. And then from there, there were direct sequels: Double Dragon 2, Double Dragon 3, originally arcade games. Super Double Dragon is the only one that was created for a home console, only released on the Super Nintendo. From there, the brand kind of splintered off into like semi-sequels. I mean, Rare did Battletoads and Double Dragon, the Ultimate Team. There was a fighting game, Double Dragon 5, which, if you guys remember, was based on that piece of crap cartoon that existed.
Yeah, I vaguely remember the cartoon.
Yeah, it was bad. I remember being really upset that this was Double Dragon 5. And then there was a just called Double Dragon, but I guess it's kind of considered 6 by some people, developed by Technos again in '95 for the Neo Geo, and that was actually based off the movie. But unlike the Street Fighter video game that was based on the movie, where it had like the actors, this was just like regular sprite based, like looked like regular Street Fighter, but it had like really horrible compressed video clips of like the movie playing in the background. Just so
Who
you
was
know.
in the movie? Wasn't it the guy? The guy from Party of Five? Wasn't
Yes.
he in the movie?
Yes, he was, I believe, Billy Lee.
Okay, I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Scott Wolf.
Scott Wolf. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't remember who the other guy was. I don't know if he was semi.
He was
well-known.
the guy who played Bill in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I'm just kidding. Because nobody can remember who that guy is or what his name is. So whenever I can't
Alex
think of
Winter.
it.
There you go. I did.
Oh, well, look at you.
Oh.
You actually know who he is. Wow.
I only know because my sister was obsessed with Bill and Ted, and she used to talk about them all the time. She used to call Keanu Kenu.
Kenu.
You didn't know how to pronounce his name then, you know?
Kenu Reeves.
Kenu Reeves.
I always just call him the guy who's not Keanu. That's it.
So then, and this one's kind of interesting too. In 2002, Playmore, they created a Neo Geo fighter called Rage of the Dragons, and that's like an unofficial Double Dragon game. It features the characters Billy and Jimmy, but their name is Lewis instead of Lee.
Bimmy and Jimmy, huh?
Yeah, so they didn't have like legal. I guess they wanted to make like a sequel to their old one, but I guess somewhere along the lines the rights changed.
Okay, I see.
So they were just like, well, whatever. We'll just make Bimmy and Jimmy. So
Bimmy and Jimmy.
yeah, so they did that. Unfortunately, you guys didn't get far enough in to Neon to where Bimmy and Jimmy come out, or Bimmy and Jammy show up. But oh well. Then there were ports of the original Double Dragon that have been released on Xbox Live, and there was even I think it was more of like a compilation one for Game Boy Advance, which I've never played.
I think I have that.
Do you?
Yeah,
Wow.
I have the Game Boy Advance one laying around somewhere.
That's like a semi rare game. It fetches for a fair price on eBay.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
I'll
like-
have to,
well,
I'll
like
have to
full
dig it up.
price.
I have like a bin somewhere with all our GBA games in it. I'll have to go through it.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a little gem you have there you didn't know. So yeah, I mean that's the short end of Double Dragon history. I mean, and these games have been ported to every freaking platform and system known to man. Ones you've never even heard of, all sorts of shit.
Don't forget the bad movie. Don't forget the bad movie.
Well, I did talk about the bad movie, sort of.
Oh, you did?
Well, yeah, I said that one game was based on the bad movie.
Oh, that's right. Yep. All right. Never mind.
Yeah,
just so much
Scott
Double
Wolf,
Dragon
and then
history.
we went in the Keanu Reeves.
It had Bill.
That's
from
right. You're right.
Bill was
Yep.
in it.
Yeah, but who was not even in it? T-1000 was in it.
Oh wow! Yeah,
Yeah,
people
Robert
listening to
Patrick
this are
was
going to
in
be
it.
like, God, these guys don't know what they're talking about. Bill wasn't in Double Dragon.
We know what we were talking about.
Yeah.
We lived through it.
Robert Patrick was the Shadow Master or some shit.
Oh. Oh yeah. I remember him being in that.
That bad. That's a
I haven't
bad
seen that. I mean, I think I saw that movie once when it first came out.
Oh,
This-
yeah, it's
this
bad.
is a travesty. And then
Bobo looks like a piece of shit in that movie. He looks like he's about to pop. But at least they included him. I give him credit for including him. All right, so Way Forward before we move on from this history. Sorry, folks. This is Way Forward's third major like retro revival. They did Contra 4 DS, which I personally
Which
thought
was awesome.
freaking
Pretty
awesome.
good.
Yeah, I mean they knocked it out of the park on that one. A Boy and His Blob on Wii, which I really liked that. Not a perfect game, but good.
I
And-
liked it, and I did the video review for that one. I still stand by my rating on that one. I think it's a really good game. It's just not a game for adults. Like, if you have kids, I think it's a great game for kids.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't very challenging, but I enjoyed it. Especially all the signs. There's like all these signs throughout the whole game that tell you exactly what power to use, and it's like, okay, I get it.
That's why it'd be good for kids.
Right. This is actually their first of these three that's like a digital download. It's not a retail title. It's kind of intended to be like a reboot of the franchise. I guess it's not including that the other ones that ever happened, anything like that. And of course, it is wrapped in a 80s inspired theme. It's dripping with the 80s. So, that
Do you think
is-
so?
I see some 90s in there.
Yeah,
Well,
it
they're
does.
not.
It gets a little blurry at times. Yeah,
Yeah, late 80s, early 90s, it is a little fuzzy.
yeah. There was
So-
like that period of the '90s before Nirvana, where like
Right.
where things were still kind of 80s, like 90210 and like Faith
Yes,
No More and
yes,
stuff like
yes.
that.
Yep. Tight rolled jeans and
Well, that always happens. It's a transitional phase. I mean, we're in that right now. You think about it. We're in the beginning of when we look back at the aughts, right? We call them the aughts.
I would like to call them the aughts personally.
When we look back at the aughts as we're at the
Back
end
in
of the
06.
yeah, at the end of the tens, we'll see this transitional phase. But
Regardless.
always happens. Yes. So, well, I mean, you even see the like if you look back at the early like 2000, it kind of feels like 90s-ish. It's weird. It's a weird thing. But anyway, all right. Our thoughts on Double Dragon Neon. Randy, I'm gonna pick you first because I know you had the biggest beef. So we'll start with the man with the biggest beef.
Great. So they're gonna be like,
I
just
just paid you a compliment there, Randy. I don't know if you like.
Double Dragon Neon. Everybody, if you're watching this on the YouTube version as opposed to listening to the podcast version of it, you'll see like the very first stage of it is almost like a mirror image of the original stage from the original Double Dragon, which I thought was kind of neat. And they add in some nice new moves, like you can. If you duck at the right moment, you power up. Like if you dodge at the right moment, you power up and can do like a really quick, awesome, counter. A lot of the moves that were not in the original Double Dragon, like the Hurricane Kick, are in it. I'm trying to think of anything else I really kind of want to say about it. Oh, it also, in that same sense, it actually has a lot of River City Ransom kind of elements to it, where there are shops and stuff along the way that you can stop in and get power-ups and crap like that for yourself. But it quickly diverts itself from the pound-for-pound remake of the original Double Dragon, and it quickly goes off the irreverent scale. Where it originally it seems like it's going to be this original, or this pixel-for-pixel remake, and then they go into things like outer space where they're like, oh no oxygen, better hold my breath. And they hold their breath and they run through outer space, and it's kind of funny. But you don't expect that, because like when I first played that first level, I was like, okay, it's just Double Dragon again, but with prettier graphics. But then as it gets funnier as it kind of goes along, and that I like. What I kind of don't like is, and I said this to you guys before, it is so 80s. Nobody was that 80s in the 80s. Like that,
No.
that's like all 10 years jammed into like 10 minutes, if not more. It's like, we get it. You're 80s. There's cassette tapes and mullets and neon lights and spandex and crap like that. But
Yeah, I think it's just meant to be kind of like a what's the word I'm searching for here? Kind of like a like the 80s that never was, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's ridiculous, but I don't think it's, I don't think
I didn't like it. I was never a fan of like 80s fashion or
I don't think
music.
they're that far off the mark, really.
You don't think?
No, because after I played this game, I far off the mark of Double Dragon.
I thought you were gonna say
I played
of the 80s.
Through 1 and 2, the original
Yeah?
arcade versions, and like all the bad guys are wearing pink shirts and shit.
Oh yeah.
And it's got like the color scheme is there, and I mean it's a serious game as opposed to this where they're going into space. But that look, I mean the look is there. You're like, yeah, this is very 80s when you're playing it, So
Yeah.
they totally took that idea and just went to town with it. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no. I don't know. I guess there were moments of it that I really liked it, and there were moments of it that I really didn't like it. Like I didn't like the fact that it almost at first didn't seem to know what it wanted to be. If it wanted to be like this a whole new sequel, which it really is, then don't even start me off with that original stage to make me think like this is going to be a whole new remake. But then at the same time, I don't know. I don't know.
So you got the impression that it was going to be a remake from that first.
I
stage?
did, yeah. Based on that first level, I totally
yeah.
thought it was going to be a remake.
So I didn't get that feeling at all.
Yeah, I just took it as like it was kind of like a big homage to the original
Right.
game and the time period that it was out
Really?
in.
See, I totally thought it was a remake because they even had a Bobo as the final first boss.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I felt like that was more like fan service than
Exactly.
meaning
Right.
to be like an actual remake or anything. And I mean I on the 80s thing again, I mean like one of my biggest memories of Double Dragon was probably from like I would say either the late 80s, about that time period, but like I can just picture, and this is for people who don't live in this area, probably not going to understand it unless you watch MTV, but like living in New Jersey, we spend a lot of time down at the beach, and there's a boardwalk, and Yeah, sorry. And the nice thing about it, and it's still true today, is that there was just a ton of arcades, and there's still a ton of arcades. It's like one of the only places I know of where I can go, and there's arcade games. Like even
Unfortunately, it's Fast and the Furious wall to wall. But
well, yeah, but they still get some new
I
games.
know
in
you
there,
still get a couple.
right. But it's one of the only places I know where you can, and they still have all the classic games too. Like you could probably
Right.
walk into like 20 of those arcades and play Double Dragon today.
Right.
Anyway, my point was that's kind of like my memory of playing Double Dragon the most. Like I know I probably played it on the NES, and I know I played Super Double Dragon, but I remember it the clearest being in an arcade and it just being that time period and just pumping quarters into a machine and playing it with my friends side by side. And so that's why I think I had posted something on Twitter about it, and then we kind of got into our conversation. It was just about like I felt like it's like a love letter to that time period. You know, it's not really meant to be accurate, and of course it's ridiculous, but and there may never have been an 80s that was that way exactly, but it is kind of the way when you think about it. And the funny thing is, as I was playing through the game, the music is incredible, by the
Music's
way.
awesome.
Yeah, the music's very
Done
good.
by Jake Kaufman, aka Vert, Big Lion Music. If you have never heard his music, and I'm sure you have because he has done a ton of soundtracks, go to look up Big Lion Music and check out his stuff because he is just amazingly talented. But as I was listening to the music on the one stage, I think it was in the spaceship level.
Mm-hmm.
It just sounded like it should have been on like the Transformers the movie.
I was going to say the
soundtrack.
vocal one, right? The
But
vocal
yeah,
track.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yup.
The
It
guy's
was awesome.
vocals, he sounded like that Stan Bush dude who does like
Yeah.
the touch
You
and all
got
that.
the touch.
It sounded like that, and it was just, you know,
Yeah.
obviously it wasn't that, but it invoked that memory in my head, and I think that's just what the game does well with the theming.
I totally agree with that, and I will say this: I don't like the game on a console, but if I found that game in an arcade somewhere, I would belly up to it and play it in an instant. If my method of playing it was putting in quarters and then with joystick and 2 buttons, I'd be there until I was out of money or I beat the game.
They should skip the quarters and just put a credit card swipe thing on it, because I would be there all day.
Yeah, it's a totally different feel because like
It is.
I'm trying to think of anybody who messes around with MAME stuff, and Phil, I know you recently built a MAME cabinet. It's a totally different feel when you can just keep hitting more quarters, and play and beat games like classics like 1942 or something like that, or even this, when you don't have any repercussion as to like the monetary loss. And that was actually a big key part of video games back in the 80s, and I think there's some disconnect there between that and Xbox Live Arcade.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but I kind of disagree with it in this case. Because, like I said, after I played through this game, I went back, I played the first 2, and then I also played the first Ninja Turtles arcade game. Just because I was like in this brawler mood. And
It sounds like it.
and I felt like those games, yeah, you just got to sit there and pump in quarters. And I was kind of like, I was actually getting bored with Double Dragon. I was getting bored with all 3 of them playing it. I was just playing it by myself. I should have forced my wife to play with me or something.
Honey, put the kids down and get over here.
Well, they were in bed. She was upstairs, and I was down here playing games on the machine. Yeah. So, what I like about Neon is you can get good at Neon, and I think that is what separates it from those games.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because like some of the old brawlers, like there was no good method of like
You're-
taking down bosses.
Yeah, you're just
Basically
getting like.
you had to take your licks, basically.
Right, like I mean, I love the arcade Ninja Turtles, but I mean those last few bosses, you literally walk up or jump kick, pray you get the hit, and then you're instantly getting whacked in the face and you're flying across the screen.
A lot of times with those older games, it was like just get through the level without dying, so you have as many lives as possible at the end,
Right.
because you're just gonna like burn through all those lives.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I found with Double Dragon, with Neon, I went in there when I first started playing it. I went in there with that mentality. I was like, well, I'm just gonna hit these buttons, enjoy the ride, and then I died on the first stage like twice. I got game over twice. I was like, wow, this is kind of hard. There's a learning curve here, and that was when I started. That was when my brain was just like, okay, I guess I have to figure out how to actually I should have paid attention to these messages that were flashing on
Yeah.
the screen. Like it was telling me what to do, and I was just like, well, who cares about this? I'm just gonna punch. And then another thing I did was I went into the options. I don't know if you guys did this, and you can set it to where you can see hit points on bad guys, and I was like, well, I want
no,
to
I
see
didn't
this.
do
I
that.
want to see hit points, and that made like a huge difference for me because different things do different damage. Like the fists, they do shit. So like you want to do a lot of kicks. The kicks do like major damage, and then you start figuring things. You start seeing what items are more valuable than others. Like the baseball bat, it's going to destroy people, but maybe another item it's not so strong, and you might not want to pick that one up.
Like the little hair comb.
Yes, exactly. The hair comb's funny though because when you throw it, it goes into their hair.
It gets
Yeah.
stuck in their face. I love it.
So, like, I started finding strategy, and I was like, oh wow, this is really neat. And then another thing, I was playing. I played 2-player. I played through half of it 2-player with my brother last weekend, and I think he said, oh, there's no block, and I go, no, there's no block, and then he was like disappointed, but that made me kind of appreciate the ducking mechanic. If you dodge a punch, you crouch it basically, and if you crouch it successfully, you're powered up for like 2 seconds, and with those 2 seconds, if you hit somebody, it's gonna hurt them pretty bad. So I like that risk reward. I like that whenever a brawler has a block, usually you just hit the block and they punch you, and you're still losing health. It's just like a little tiny bit of, you know what I mean, as opposed to
Right.
So
And then it just becomes like you're not moving. You're just standing there holding block,
Right, you're
waiting for them to stop hitting, and then you just hit them real quick. And
exactly. Whereas this introduces like, well, they're not going to stop, so either I got to figure out the timing on this, and then, or you know what I mean, and then rethink things a little bit. So that mechanic in itself really changes the way just you approach the game, I feel. So yeah, I started. Like it kind of had these like. I mean, it is. I guess you could say a dumb brawler, but I feel like it started having these layers to it, which I really liked. And as you get deeper into the game, it even kind of assumes that yes, you've learned how to duck and roll. And I don't know if you guys, on the spaceship they have them. There's like these 2D parts where you can't move up and down on the plane. You're just kind of stuck on a track.
Yep.
They start doing parts like that later on where they kind of, it's almost like a Castlevania where they almost have like a Medusa head coming at you, but it's like a missile in this case, and you need to like alternate your duck dodges.
Is that with the
Duck and
helicopter?
roll.
Oh God, that sounds
No,
terrible.
it was cool. I did it without getting hit.
Uh,
And it feels good when you're successfully doing it. And I like how they get the most out of that mechanic. So I just feel like it's more, to me, it's more than just like a dumb brawler, and I kept coming back to it. I completed the whole game. I played through more than half of it on hard. I wanted to go back to it, but I haven't had time. And then I played through half of it again with my brother. So I played the shit out of this game in the last 2 weeks.
yeah. I think calling it a dumb brawler is doing it a disservice. I mean, I know you're not, but I'm saying for someone who would call it that, because it really, like you said, there really is a much more, many more layers of strategy to how you play, and evasion and all that really is a big part of it. And I think that was really cool, and that was really I had the same reaction where it kind of like, took me back a little bit when I realized that was the case, because I was going into it with the same exact mentality of being like, all right, I'm going to punch, I'm going to kick, and I'm going to move around.
Right,
and
like you're gonna muscle through it. The same
Yeah.
thing. You're gonna get to the boss with as many lives.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And then one thing I had to do, I was playing it on the PlayStation 3, and one thing that I really liked that they did, and I had to do this for myself, was the dodge mechanic on that was on the L2 button, which really just didn't work for me at all. So I remapped it to L1, which wasn't being used for anything, and it like changed the game for me when I did that. It was because I was struggling before that, just because it was so uncomfortable for me to reach down there. As soon as I put it on L1, it was a game changer, and
the
everything
L1
just kind of clicked.
L2 is like one's an instant button, the other one's like that whole
that
long trigger pull. I can't remember if that's the same way with the 360, because I'm playing it on 360. I think it is the L2 or whatever the hell it's called on 360.
Yeah, they got the bumpers. The 360's got the two bumpers, and then it's got the triggers. Where
LT.
Yeah. So that That was nice. I liked that they put that in there. I really liked all the power-ups. I thought that was awesome. I liked how you would collect more tapes. At first, I got it, and I was like, "Oh man, I got it again!" You know, like I kept getting the same one every night. And then when I went into the store, and it kind of clicked for me that it was actually building up. You know,
you're
making it more
stronger.
Yeah, so I liked that. I liked that you could switch your abilities. I liked that you could have like kind of a passive buff on you for the other
They
one.
do need to do a little bit of better explaining as to like the whole magic system in the game, because I was seeing this magic bar and I'm like, what the shit does that even do? It took me probably like, I don't know, my third attempt back at the game to even figure out how the hell that even worked. You know, they don't, there's like zero explanation for it whatsoever, even from the store point of view or within the gameplay.
Right. Yeah.
I did play a little bit of split screen with my daughter, which I realized
split screen, you called it.
Well, whatever, you know.
two-player co-op.
We were sitting there next to each other, and we were playing on the same screen. Sorry,
Yes, I'm just being a dick.
it was not split. There was no splitting of the screen. Sorry.
How did that work out, by the way? The two-player at the same time.
It was fun. I quickly realized I should not have been having my daughter play that game. But
when the booby girls came out and stuff.
Well, yeah, but there's
just
like some
punching
cursing and stuff in there.
Yeah.
The cursing.
Oh, I don't remember the cursing, but
Yeah, I think they dropped some shits here and there. Nothing too bad, but bad enough that she like raises her eyebrows when she hears it. So I'm like, I better turn this off. I'm being the irresponsible gaming parent guy. But
did one of you die?
I did, and I really liked that. That's why I was getting
Yeah.
onto that, because that mechanic where you could like do the like a quick time event thing where it did the pencil and the tape cassette to wind it up to
Really?
Yeah.
See, I didn't get to see that at all because I only got to play single player.
It was
Well,
really
yeah.
cool. Yeah, it would revive the other player.
It's like a Gears of War, right? I mean, I didn't play much Gears, but I mean,
yeah,
that
same
idea is
same
basically
idea.
the same.
Yep. You just-
Okay, or even like Castle Crashers where you have to like time the heart pumps kind of thing.
Yeah, this you don't have to do any timing. You really just kind of
Okay.
spam on the X button or whatever button it was mapped to. I forget, but yeah, when you have to go over to them though to do it. So if there's a ton of enemies, it can get difficult because you can't. So
Rewind.
basically, it was me reviving her, and every time I died, I was pretty much screwed.
Well, let me ask this: was it easier to do it with multiple people? Because I was kind of always mad whenever I died and ran out of lives while playing single player, and I hit continue. It would toss me all the way back at the very beginning of these
Yeah.
very, very long stages, and I'm like, if I just had a second person sitting here to just revive me, and maybe they could hit continue, it might be easier to push forward.
Yeah, I think I felt like it was at first, but then as I got better just playing it by myself, I found that it wasn't really an issue anymore. But in the beginning,
Yeah.
when I was still kind of learning it and getting used to the controls and everything, I felt like it was easier because I did have a little bit of a cushion to fall back on. I think you can actually, this may have been a bug in the game, but there was at one point where I was out of lives. And she only had one life, and I was dead. And you can steal the other person's lives, like in Contra.
Like Contra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she only had one life left, and I just kept stealing it indefinitely and coming back into the game. So it might have been a bug in the game. I don't know. If anybody from Way Forward hears this, you might want to take a look at
Might
that.
wanna check
I
that
don't
out.
know.
Look at those bugs. Interesting.
But and I only experienced that once, so it might have just been a fluke. It might not happen for other people. I don't know that. But it did definitely happen. I wasn't crazy because I think we got past in a Bobo that way.
Oh wow.
But yeah, very cool game. I like it a lot. It's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just kind of going back to what I was kind of saying. It's not that I dislike it. There's just stuff about it that I dislike, and I think the whole '80s thing really is kind of a.
It's rubbing
It's
you the
just a
wrong way,
person-
man.
Yeah, it's just a personal pet peeve. There's like no real reason as to why I dislike throwback stuff to the '80s stuff. I realize that '80s things are, or at least they were in fashion. I don't know if they still are, but I don't know. A part of that felt a little bit panderish to me. Like, hey, you kids like your '80s things now, like your Dexy's Midnight Runners and your Ahas. Well, check out these Double Dragons.
It's funny to me because I can't even imagine that like any kids today, like anybody
They
under
wouldn't
the age of
even-
20 would want to like like anything from that time period for any
Are
reason.
you kidding me? Look at it. Everybody's wearing Ray-Bans and shit now.
Are they? I guess I'm out of touch. I don't know. Like an old man or something. I don't know. I don't get out to the mall on
neon
Friday nights
colors-
very often anymore.
Neon colors are definitely coming back in. I mean,
That's
I just went to a wedding where I wore a bright freaking blue shirt and a purple tie, and I didn't even give a shit. I got many compliments too.
There
for
was
my
like
bright colors.
and just to use like the mall kind of analogy or to illustrate this I guess of changing fashion is like, you know, in my early 20s and like all the way through maybe like my mid 20s, I would still shop at stores like Pacific Sun and stuff like that. Like they usually had like a lot of skateboard clothes, Element and stuff like that, and I would get like cargo shorts there. And like over time I started going in there and just finding like everything was like neon green and like you know, just like the color, everything was basically like highlighter colors. Like if you buy like the multi assorted pack of highlighters, like that was the palette of the clothing in Pacific Sun. And then I realized I could no longer shop there. I was like, I have now edged out of the demographic for that store.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, here it is. I'll sum it up my final thoughts on it. I've lived through the 80s once, and I didn't like the fashion back then. I don't want to do it again. I don't want to go through the 80s crap again. What was awesome about the 80s were the video games, though.
Video games were
And this
great.
is just like them.
It is, yeah. I think for us, I mean, we were all young enough in the 80s that we have a little bit of plausible deniability. Like we weren't really picking out our own clothes at that point.
I'm
Right, we
more
weren't
a child of the
making waves.
90s.
I do believe I at one point owned a pair of parachute pants, but I do not think that I bought them for myself, as I was probably about 5 or 6 years old. So I didn't do a whole lot of shopping. I know Phil owned at least one Michael Jackson glove in his life.
Maybe I still do.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
What about the black biker pants with the single neon colored stripe right down the side of them?
Yep.
Remember those?
Wow. I was gonna not bring it up, but it made me remember my members only. We were talking about it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Shit, I
You
forgot
brought
to wear
up
mine.
members only. So I told you I had a story for this, and I'll tell. I'm sorry, people, that we're gonna not talk about Double Dragon for a few seconds here. So I was working at KB Toys. This was probably 97, 98. I'm gonna peg it around. And I didn't have a winter coat, and I was going to work with just a sweater on. And then the one day, my mom she kept saying, "You need a coat. You need a coat. You need a coat." So the one day she says, "You need a coat here." I don't even know where this coat came from. She goes, "Wear this coat." And she goes, "I just got it. It's a nice coat." I was like, "Okay." And I look at it, and it says members only. And I have never heard of members only in my life. Never. So I didn't know, like, the joke. But I was just like, God, this coat's a piece of shit. I don't want to wear this coat. That's all I was thinking. Nothing against members only. I just knew I didn't want to wear it. And she was ragging on me. I was like, fine, I'll wear the goddamn coat. So I put the coat on, and I go to KB. So anyway, we're closing the store at night. I put my coat on. The guy I'm working with goes, "Members only." I go, "What?" And he goes, "Those are the worst." And then he just rails, like he just kills me. And I was like, "I am never wearing this fucking coat again." And that was it. It was the only time I wore it.
When I was a little kid, I had a members only jacket, and one of Dad, if you're happening to listen to this, sorry, but one of my visits home recently, like within the past year or so, my dad was going through his closet. He was like, "Here, you want a jacket? I never wear this anymore." And he pulls out this old members only jacket. I was like, "Yeah, sure, Dad, I'll take it."
Where is it now?
That's what I meant to
You really
actually
have
wear
it?
it.
Oh, so you
yeah,
really
I
have
swear
it still.
it's in my closet.
Well, at least you didn't throw it out.
No. No.
You were very nice.
Yeah.
Oh God.
But Double Dragon.
Yeah, Double Dragon. So, what I really like about the game too, other than the fact that I dig the whole 80s thing just because it's right up my alley. I really like how it's kind of a celebration of all brawlers, and you can find lots of elements from all these games in it, like the dash shoulder mechanic from like Turtles in Time has kind of worked its way in there.
Yeah.
It goes through a lot of, it's a combination. They use a lot of ideas from Double Dragon like 2 that are in there. That the helicopter stage from Double Dragon 2, where everybody's flying out the window. They use that in space with the air, sucking everybody out into space. That idea is kind of thrown in there as well. That tank boss from Double Dragon 2. they revisit, and so there's a lot of stuff from there. And then it kind of has, the typical, I guess tropes that weren't in Double Dragon games that were in later games of its type, like, the elevator stages, the stage where you're riding on something, and, if you fall off, it's, instant death type deal. So I really like just that whole combination of all those great, like, side-scrolling brawlers. And to be honest, this one has quickly become probably, like, one of my favorite ones. It's like,
Really?
I would say maybe like top 3, top 5 favorite brawler. I love it. I think they just nailed it. Like, in every way you could nail it on a brawler, I think they did it. The only thing I really dislike is with the shops.
You got to go through the whole level to get to the shop instead of just going to the shop.
Yeah, and they're only in like certain stages.
Right,
Stage
it'll tell
2,
you on the map if it has a store or not.
Yeah,
I don't even know if it does. Does it tell you on the map?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Oh, it does tell you on the map. Wow, I didn't even notice that. That's the only thing I don't like, because I had made it to the final boss without really upgrading much, and he was just whooping me. And I did call my wife down on that. I said, you just need I just need you to be beat up, basically, because we have to beat the final boss. I was like, this is driving me nuts. It was getting late. Had to go to bed. We lost worse than I lost before, because it was just too hard, because it had that learning curve.
Yeah.
And she's just going in, and she's a meatbag, and then it's just kind of screwing up my flow. So it made it harder, actually. So I was just like, what do I do? I said, well, what about these shops? So I went back to the shop in stage 2. I had tons of money, so I upgraded the shit out of my dude. And then I went back, and I whooped the final boss. But that was the only thing. I wish that the shops were just, like, when you're on the map screen, you could just kind of access a shop, spend whatever money you have.
Yeah.
And upgrade that way. That was really my only complaint. Other than that, I think it's awesome, and hopefully they do another one, and I would like to say I went into this game wanting to hate it. Like, I thought it looked terrible.
Yeah, you did. I remember you seemed like you were kind of reluctant to play it, and I was the one that was a little excited.
Yeah,
about
you
it.
were excited, and I was not, and I thought it looked like shit from the first trailer, because WayForward's kind of known for great pixel art and really good, like, 2D animation. Like, the Buena's Blob animation's real good. I don't know if you guys played Blood Rain Betrayal.
No, but that looked really good.
That's pretty cool too. It's not as good as this, but it's worth trying out. That has, like, cool animation too. So this has 2D backgrounds that are, like, digitally painted, and then it has 3D models. And WayForward's 3D is never really good. And, like, when you look at this game, it's just kind of, you're like, oh, it looks real janky from, like, when you're looking at the videos. And I just wasn't really feeling it. And I did think that the 80s thing at that point, I was just like, yeah, this is really just, it's too 80s. But then when I played it, I started feeling it, I started getting into it. It was like stage 2 is when it really hit, like, the 80s thing really, like, got me in stage 2 when that pop music played.
Mm-hmm.
Like the female vocals. When they kick in, and I was just like, okay, they get it, they understand it.
That's when a lot of that game kind of comes together, and you start to get it, is stage 2 or 3, which is I was gonna say, like, hey, this is at least worth trying, but my fear is that if you just only try it, you're only gonna be playing level 1, and you're not gonna be getting the game at all. Like, you won't be understanding the concept of it at all, because stage 1 is not Double Dragon Neon.
Yeah.
Right.
At least get far enough to fight Skullmageddon.
Yes.
Right.
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
The game's got a guy named Skullmageddon in it.
Which, another throwback, because, like, he is Skeletor.
Yeah.
Yes.
It didn't really
even
dawn
has the
on
same
me that he was
voice.
Yeah, it's the same.
He's got his voice reminded me of like a bad guy in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Right, and it's great because when they introduced me, like, oh, this guy's kind of badass, and then he speaks. And when I was playing it with my brother, when he spoke, I was just kind of waiting to see what his reaction was, and he goes, "That's his voice?" And I go, "Yep." Like, he was so disappointed that was his voice, but I loved it.
That was a phenomenal impression of your brother, by the way.
Yeah.
For a second, I felt like he was on the podcast with us.
He was with us. So, I just think that they. Before I move, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I was talking about the 3D models. So I wanted to hate it, but they kind of won me over with the 3D models too, because I kind of learned to like them, and the animation's not great, but it's serviceable. But what I respected with it was, especially since I just played Blood Rain, which they also did. They really make the most out of those models. There's tons of different. They're always reskinning them for all the stages. Like you're in space now, they're wearing space helmets, and you know, when you're later on, they're like zombies, like towards the end of the game. And I really liked it. That's stuff they couldn't do if it was all 2D. It was all when you're playing Blood Rain. There's literally like 6 enemies in the whole game, and that's it. And it's because they're all hand drawn. And I understand that the process of freaking hand. I know firsthand the process of doing 2D animation, how hard it is, and you just can't reskin it and give it a different feel, you know what I mean? And they made the use of the models in that way, and that was when I was like, okay, I understand why they did it this way, and it makes sense. And so they won me over in like every single aspect.
Cool.
So,
Very
yeah,
good.
Nice.
and my final thought is, I really like Double Dragon as a whole, but 2 on the NES is the best one. I mean, it's the best Double Dragon game. And I loved that game when I was a kid, and I remember when Double Dragon 3 came out and just being so fucking let down that game was such a piece of shit.
It almost seemed like you looked at the cartridges and you were like, wait, did they get these labels backwards? Is 3 2 and is 2 3? Because 2 is awesome.
I mean, just you don't understand. Maybe you do. The feeling of the first time I played 3.
Oh, I do. I remember back in the day. I was a big Double Dragon fan. I didn't like it on the NES, but you know, my brother and I played it quite a bit in the arcade because that was one of those games where there was always that moment back in the day when you were playing games in the arcade where you couldn't believe what somebody was actually doing in front of you. Like the first time I remember I was playing Street Fighter 2, my brother was like, "What are you playing?" I was like, "Oh, it's this game called Street Fighter 2." And he goes, "Where's Street Fighter 1?" I was like, "I don't know."
Right.
And then he was like, "Which one are you?" And I'm like, "I'm the green guy that's throwing off the electricity." And he was like, "Nuh-uh." And like the concept of playing a guy that looked like a boss was kind of cool and new back then. But you know, Double Dragon 2 was just the best Double Dragon. Period. End of sentence.
Yeah, it's all. Well, I think this one dethrones it finally, but I agree that like nothing topped it. Everything else after that was kind of shit. I didn't really play this NES one, and then there was that, like I said, the Double Dragon 5, and it fell apart after 2. And I feel like with this one, it's like I finally got the Double Dragon I wanted after 2. Like I finally got it, and that's the best. That's the highest praise I can give it.
That is pretty high praise.
So.
Very cool. So it sounds like we're all pretty much in agreement that this game is definitely at least worth checking out, and that if you do, to make sure you stick around for a couple levels.
Yeah. Like I said, I would give it a worth trying. I think that the $10 price tag is a little steep, but you know, you can't
really. I thought it was fair because usually everything the standard now is 15, and I felt like 15
is it?
would have been. I feel like 15's like the standard now.
You're probably right. It probably is because Mark of the Ninja was 15.
Yeah. Castle Crashers started at 15. I remember
Did
that.
it?
Mm-hmm. Because they were all 10. Actually, I think when Xbox Live first came out, most of them were like $5.
Yeah.
And then they're like
See,
10.
I think $5 is too cheap and 10 is too much. If there was like a $7.50 mark,
Yeah.
I'd be like, that's it. That's what you should pay for.
And then you don't remember it was like a big deal on Castle Crashers when they were like, it's going to be $15. It was kind of like a big deal then. But that like set the standard because the game sold great and everybody thought, okay, well, we can sell these games for $15 now. So the $10 I feel is kind of rare now.
Are
So
there
I
any
felt like it was
plans
a
of
good
this game
price.
coming to PC? Did you read anything?
I don't believe so.
No.
WayForward hasn't really put much PC stuff out.
It's a shame. I think a game like this this game would destroy on like Steam.
Oh, a Steam sale when it's like $3 or something, you know, that's like a no-brainer.
Yeah, they would
and
sell.
the capability to like connect through Steam and crap like that.
Right.
Yeah,
They would
people
sell a
love it.
million of them. Yeah, on a Steam sale.
Yeah.
Well,
That-
maybe not. I just threw that number out there.
One million
Nothing to base that
sales.
on.
No, I mean, it's true. Because, you know, it has the... I feel like the person that's using Steam a lot is probably someone our age, maybe. I mean, Steam's pretty huge, but, I mean, do you think the main Steam user is probably somewhere in our age range? It probably grew up with Double Dragon. They see it on a Steam sale for like $2.
They'll think, I've got nothing to do this weekend, why not?
Yeah, they're going to buy it just based on the name.
They'll never
alone.
play it because you don't play the games you buy.
Well,
No,
that's
Steam
true.
sale games, you never play them.
Yeah.
Lone
Right.
Survivor, it's still sitting in my queue.
I got a couple.
Calling
I got a couple. Like
Yeah.
Portal 2.
Oh.
I tried to, I tried to play it, and
Your computer?
it kept crashing.
Yeah.
No, it ran great.
Oh.
It ran great. It kept crashing.
Well,
You start out in
crashing
that room.
isn't running great.
Well, I know that,
He
but,
means it looked pretty.
but
it
it
was
looked
just stopping.
good. Yeah, it looked good. It ran at a good frame rate. I was
Yeah.
very playable. I was very happy. And then the room started falling apart, and then we started moving forward, and it may have just been my computer. That
Did you have to lay down on the floor for like 15 minutes after?
That didn't happen.
Because I don't even want to hear
Only
it.
you.
Unless you
Only
had to
you.
lay down on the floor, I don't even want to hear it. All right?
Only you. But,
anyway, you want to move on to our community feedback here about
yeah.
the neon?
Yeah, I've slobbed enough neon knob.
Nice. Well, first, before we get into the community feedback, I want to give a shout out to David. I'm not going to say your last name because sometimes people are weird about that. But David left us some feedback for Dear Esther through Facebook, and I missed it. So I'm very sorry it didn't get read on the show. I'm not going to go read it
Dear
all now.
David.
But I did read your feedback, and it was great. So please hit us again sometime, and I'll try to somehow it went through a channel of Facebook that I don't usually check for Elder Geek, and I missed it. So my apologies, but thank you very much. We really appreciate you taking the time to send that in to us. And I guess also, just speaking of Dear Esther real quick, I'll give a thanks to I mean, that episode really kind of blew up, and I don't want to get way into it, but there was like tons and tons of debate and conversation and, well, arguing going on in the YouTube comments for the last episode for Dear Esther. And, I mean, a lot of praise. A lot of people said nice things about the show, and really appreciate that. And also just, we appreciate that people got that involved in it, I guess, that they were taking the time to, have such a heated debate. So thank you. Appreciate that as well.
So I ask you this: is Double Dragon a game?
I'm going to say no. I don't really think it is a game.
No. Yeah.
It's more like an interactive experience where you just push your character across the screen and then you hit buttons, pretty much. Oh wait,
Yeah, it is more movie than video game, I think. In this
yeah.
I mean, if I can play it with my cell phone, is it really a game?
It's like a soundtrack kind of that you just listen to the music and then you also move stuff on the screen while the music
You happen,
plays.
yeah, you happen to be doing something while you're enjoying the music.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah, idle hands and all that. So let's go ahead and give some feedback. We got feedback from Louis B, who wrote in and said, "Man, I love this game. It was a blast going through with the second person too. I have only played Double Dragon on NES and always liked that game better than Bad Dudes. My friends used to say Bad Dudes was better, but I never agreed with them. I love how you revive your teammate with a cassette and a pencil by pressing B constantly. I will definitely be playing this over again."
Bad Dudes was a fun game.
I was gonna say I thought it was funny that he brought up Bad Dudes, because you brought up Bad Dudes to me, Randy, when you were playing. You go, "This should have been the sequel to Bad Dudes."
I like Bad Dudes.
How about that Bad Dudes 2 Kickstarter that completely fell apart?
Oh, thank God.
Did you
it
follow that?
Was that the
Yeah.
fake
See any
one?
of that?
The fake one?
No, that was.
Well, I don't.
Cheetah Man the fake one?
No, yeah, no. Cheetah Man's real. Cheetah Man,
That
they're
one
actually.
is a real one?
Yeah. They wanted to finish it. The guy that made that piece of shit wanted to finish. That was a waste.
Oh,
I can't
that's-
believe that got so. I can't believe that got funded. I mean,
There was-
nothing
there
like
was-
funding shit. Sorry,
No, there was a different controversy around the Cheetah Man, and it had to do with the angry video game nerd, and him
well, he was in the video because I guess he was pimping it. I don't know why.
Well, and apparently he didn't want to pimp it, and there was like this
Oh,
whole
really?
back and forth. Yeah. You go check it out. It's totally worth. But that's totally off topic. But go check it out.
All right.
Interesting. But yeah, I'm sorry, but yeah, the Bad Dudes 2 one. I think, when you said it was unofficial, the goal was really high, and I think it was so high because the money from it was going so that they could acquire the rights to it.
Oh,
That's
Kickstarter.
it was, and it
There
came
you
up,
have
and
it.
And it looked like shit. Yeah, and it looked like oh, thank God that didn't get
Yeah.
funded.
Nate. Thank you, Nate. Wrote in and said, "I enjoyed the first few levels I checked out yesterday. If nothing else, it's a really funny game. I made it to the second level boss who sounds just like Skeletor. I was dying the whole time before I gave up. I can't wait to see what other kind of ridiculous stuff is in this game." Well, Very cool. Thank you
There
very
is
much.
ridiculous stuff. I wish you guys beat the game.
I plan on it. I will.
The ending.
I hope people that are going to be watching it on YouTube are probably going to be seeing me get as far as I can possibly get with it. But like the upside down helicopter stage is as far as I can get, because then you get to the tank and the tank just destroys me and then like burns my corpse and then pees on my corpse.
Were you actually like fighting most of the tank? Because most of the tank you just skip and then.
I was just trying to get up to the top because it showed there was something flashy on the top right of the thing and then like a barrel or whatever.
Yeah, you got to throw the barrel at it a couple times.
Yeah, I couldn't even get up there.
Dang. But the ending is great.
I will get there.
The way I guess I shouldn't ruin it for you guys.
No, go ahead.
I'll ruin it for the listeners. I don't want to ruin it for you guys.
It's fine.
It has the best. It's the best achievement I ever got. Because you always beat a game, you get the achievement.
Mm-hmm.
Like in this one. All right, I'll ruin. You sure you don't care if I ruin it?
We said we spoil the game,
right.
so
The bad guy, you throw him off a cliff, and he's falling, and he sings. He sings the final song, and one of the lines is something about like how, here, I'll give you this reward. This is what you'll remember me by, and like as he says it, that's when you get your achievement. It's like, oh shit, that was awesome.
that's pretty fun.
Now I want to beat it.
Yeah, see? And it's good, and his song is great, and yes, so best achievement as well.
And our final community feedback comes from Kevin of GoNintendo.com fame, also known as the Raw Meat Cowboy, which that name always disturbs me a little bit. I don't know why.
He posted a clip today. It is a disturbing name. He posted a clip today of Jeff Cayley. He's got an interview with Reggie tonight on what's the TV
Game
show
Trailers?
Game Trailers tonight, yeah. And he mentions Go Nintendo and Raw Meat Cow, and he says Raw Meat Cowboy to Reggie. It cracked me up, dude.
Did Reggie maintain a straight face?
Yeah, of course.
Wow, man, that guy's hardcore. He is
He's
hardcore PR.
I'm getting ready because Reggie's gonna be showing up tonight for some Nintendo Directs.
Okay.
I hope he delivers. I'm sorry, I'm getting excited.
So here's what Kevin said. Let me read what Kevin said. I think for fans of Double Dragon and Cheese, it's absolutely amazing. One of the best soundtracks for a game I've ever heard. I agree wholeheartedly. I think the soundtrack is absolutely
The
really
soundtrack's
good.
awesome.
You
And
can
he
even
nails it.
pick it up on
sorry.
Bandcamp, I believe.
Yeah, for free. You can get it for free, and he nails it like in every single way. Like the music, it's for Double Dragon fans. There's like remixes of great like classic songs that sound great, and then there's like these 80s pop songs that we talked about that are just sound like something that you would have heard from then, and then each of the when we're talking about like the magic and the and like the stuff that you can equip, each of them has like their own theme song, and they're all kind of like a take on some real 80s song, like a parody. So there's all that stuff. There's like Depeche Mode basically songs and Run DMC and shit.
Yep.
And then there's just his like regular, like then he has his own original music that he created for it that sounds like it would fit in a Double Dragon game or a game of this type. But like he just nails it like on every single front. It's awesome.
I actually wanted to contact one of the guys from This Place Is Haunted and ask like if they had listened to it at all, because those guys actually redid like the original Double Dragon music as like a rock cover. Did you watch them with me last year at MagFest?
Yeah.
And they did. You remember they did like the whole thing of Double Dragon. They had it playing in the background.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, and playing this game kind of reminded me of that, so I wanted to hear their take on it. But anyway, good soundtrack. Moving on.
Oh yeah, so that's it for community feedback. Thank you guys very much for sending that in. We really appreciate it, and you guys listening for the next game. We would love to get your feedback as well, and I guess we might as well go ahead and let you know that next time for the Game Club, we're going to be playing the game Colorblind, which is on the PC. And I don't know a whole lot about it aside from a little video clip Phil showed me the other day, and should be interesting.
It's Colorblind.
Colorblind. Sorry.
Yeah, dude, I did the same mistake. I was like, what? Why am I not finding this in any Google searches? It's Colorblind.
Colorblind.
The play on words. Play on words.
Well, they got me.
But it's like a 3D puzzly kind of game where the physics are based on the color of the blocks in the reality.
Okay.
So
Cool.
yeah.
Should be fun. Looking forward to it. So if you guys want to check out Colorblind on the PC and send us some feedback, we will read it on the show as always. And speaking of things that we read on the show, it's time to talk about iTunes and Zune reviews.
Any new ones?
Yeah, we got a new one. We got a new 5-star
Whoa.
review. This one comes from Matt, and it's very nice. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. It says, "Great show, great concept, great ear candy. This show is a great way to hear about those games that you might otherwise have missed. What makes it a 5-star review is the chemistry between the hosts. I could listen to these guys talk about cheese. The conversation comes across as natural and unrehearsed while still feeling professional." Well, I can tell you right now, it's definitely unrehearsed.
Although we do goad each other a little bit before the show starts through Twitter and stuff.
Yeah.
That is true.
You get the feeling that you're part of the conversation with friends rather than just listening to people from the outside. These guys deserve to be heard by more people, so spread the word. Thank you, Matt.
Cool.
Really
Thanks.
appreciate that.
That
Very,
was
very
good
cool.
stuff.
And so anybody else who wants to leave us some reviews, we really greatly appreciate it. It only helps our rankings on services like iTunes and just help us get more people submitting community feedback. Good for everyone. And if you do submit reviews, I will read them on the show. And if you happen to submit it from another country, just shoot us an email at eldergeekgameclub@gmail.com and let me know that you sent one in, because I don't typically... You got to manually toggle between the different country stores in iTunes and stuff like that, and I don't always see them. So if you sent me a review and you're in a country other than the United States, let me know on email, and I'll go find your review, and I'll make sure that it gets read on the show.
Awesome.
So that's about it. And then be sure to head over to eldergeek.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch TV. Lots of good stuff going on. Great reviews, editorial content, and all kinds of good stuff from Elder Geek. So please check it out.
Yes, and if you're listening this far into the show, just a kind of a cool reminder that every Friday in October, well, pretty much the entire month of October, we're going to be streaming horror games for charity. We're going to be calling it the Friday Night Creature Feature. We've done Friday Night Creature Features before, but we've done them just as reviews. But this time we kind of figured we would do them as live streams and do it for charity as well. So check it out. We've got a couple of great sponsors lined up. I think you're going to be able to get some free games if you just kind of at least hang out and watch a few of us get scared out of our brains. That's it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So that about does it for this episode, and I would like to say thank you to everybody who has listened, downloaded through various means, or watching us on YouTube. We really appreciate your support, guys. Check us out in 2 weeks for Colorbind, and for myself, Steve, and Phil, and Randy. We will see you then.
Adios.
I bid you adieu.